Welcome to TOMMO'S Race CHINWAG, a chat, a natter, a conversation, all things Formula One. Join me live on YouTube or after the fact on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as we get into the meat and bones of this wonderful, frustrating, exhilarating sport we know and love. My name's Tommo, let's talk about it. Welcome back everyone. This is TOMMO'S Race CHINWAG, FP1 FP2 Australia is done. Let's talk all about it. Welcome to everyone here live on YouTube after the fact, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, however you choose to consume this content. It is 6:30 in the morning. I stayed up for FP1, got a couple of hours kip, got up again for FP2, watched it, and now here we are. Welcome everyone in live chat. King, Sauerkraut, Sreg, Henry, Tina, Vippy, Sean, Ryan, Mr. Nowboy, Famke, Dirk, Polo, Large Man, and the rest of you. Let's get into it. Let's not waste any time and have a look at the FP1 timing tower. First of all, we will talk, of course, about FP1. The first, not competitive as such, but representative session of the season. I made some notes as I watched it through because it's very easy with recency bias to prioritise what's just happened in FP2. We will get into that, don't you worry. Now, first mention, first point of note, has to be, unfortunately, once again, around Aston Martin. As you can see, Fernando Alonso is bottom of that timing tower with 0 laps, nil points. I mean, Lance didn't do much better with 30 seconds off the pace. But another Honda power unit issue for Fernando saw him out of FP1, and we got a bit more insight into that after FP1 as to what the issue, well, we didn't really get full transparency to what the issue is, but I mean, it's just many issues. Basically, there's not enough words, there's not enough vocabulary within the brain that is Adrian Newey to fully summarise just how much of a mess Aston Martin are in right now. We thought it would be bad. I didn't think it would be quite this bad, but here we are. So, yes, nil points for Fernando in FP1. But I tell you what, obviously, first look at these cars in Australia around this track layout. Very different to Bahrain, very different to Barcelona in terms of characteristics. All in all, I think the cars look very nippy. I think they're very easy on the eye. The way they're dancing through corners, you can see they've got a lot less downforce, and I like that. That's what I want to see. I want to see these drivers struggling. I want to see these drivers challenged in a way that I think the ground effect, and even prior to the ground effect regulations, you think how on rails that 2020 Mercedes was at times. You know what I'm saying? So it's good to see the cars looking a little bit more frisky. You know what I'm saying? I can see a few of you casual Canadian, this is Ferrari's year. A few of you are already drinking the Ferrari Kool-Aid. Don't get ahead of yourselves, all right? You're just setting yourself up for disappointment. Promise you. So obviously FP1 started. Arvid Lindblad had to immediately park the car. Was then rolled back into the pits and his car was fixed. Both McLaren boys had issues as well. Piastri straight out the gates had drive issues, and then Lando was complaining of problems, and Lando did actually have to put it up early, didn't he? He only got 7 laps on the board with a gearbox issue. So McLaren didn't have a particularly good FP1. It did get better in FP2 though, so don't you worry, Papayans. Sainz and Gasly had a bit of a misunderstanding through the high speed. The drivers need to get used to these new lights, the different flashing. I need to get used to it. To be honest, I couldn't tell you what all the flashings mean. If you showed me diagrams with all of them, I don't remember. Just lights don't register, stay in my head. Certain things do. Certain things register, stay in my head. It's like for me, I can never remember road names. I'm really bad with road names. But then a super niche bit of F1 information from an interview I heard like 4 years ago, and I'm like, boom, I'm there. So make of that what you will. Now, a lot of drivers did run wide, particularly in FP1 around turn 13. Verstappen, Sainz, Colapinto all picking up varying degrees of gravel out there. Max had to have some rear suspension work done as well to his car. Super clipping. Super clipping was talk of the town. Talk of the town. Now, super clipping is a phenomenon necessary with these energy starved cars where you recover battery power at the end of a straight or like through a high speed corner or whatever while you're still at full throttle. So it's not lifting off to generate ERS essentially, which we still have ERS, right? It's just much bigger than it used to be. But yeah, you keep the throttle pinned, you switch a switch on the car, and it diverts energy to the battery. And yeah, we saw a lot of talk of that on the broadcast, and cars like losing speed at the end of straights and stuff like that. It's still really difficult to judge how much that is, how visible that's going to be in the race. Because ultimately, yeah, like the idea of cars losing speed at the end of straights isn't super thrilling. However, will I actually care that much if the racing's good? No. So, I don't know. Still, jury's out on that one, I would say. I would say jury's still out on whether super clipping's going to be an annoying thing or just a necessary evil, I suppose. Now, George Russell's push lap on the softs wasn't particularly impressive. He was over a second off the pace. And actually, Mercedes and the Mercedes-powered teams, I mean, look, it's a Ferrari, Red Bull, double 1-2 at the top in the pecking order. Weren't quite at it in FP1 with the Mercedes-powered teams. Possibly some ERS issues going on there, but again, things did improve for them in FP2. Cadillac, not welded to the bottom. Valtteri Bottas up in P17. Well done, Valtteri. 3.7 seconds off the pace. Checo also lost his right mirror. Valtteri his left mirror. So maybe that's something that they need to look at because that's not ideal. And yeah, we had a bunch of cars obviously having moments into turn one. We know Australia is one of those where, you know, you can gain a lot of time if you're aggressive and a bit risky into T1. But of course, if you do get caught out, there's a lot of gravel and you're going to lose a lot of time. Lance, I mean, look, at least Lance got out for Aston Martin. But yeah, only 3 laps on the boards, 30 seconds off the pace. My boy Alex, of course, he conked out with only 12 minutes left to go. A hydraulic pressure failure by the looks of it, 15th quickest. Williams very much in that midfield, but slightly down towards the back. And Perez had a weird moment, didn't he, as well, in turn 3, where the car looked like it had broken before he'd even spun. The engine braking was playing havoc with the rear axle on his Cadillac, so something not ideal. I'll tell you what, I mean, I asked in the live chat, impressive. I think in FP1, so you got to look at Arvid Lindblad up there in P5, a second off the pace, put a stonking lap in at the end, especially impressive given he missed a little bit of time early on in the session with his car issues. Audi, P9, P10, Gabriel Bortoleto, Nico Hulkenberg. I tell you what, so far, certainly after FP1, Audi, very good. Like, performing above my expectations. I definitely expected that they would struggle, being the only team running that engine, still being Sauber, you know, in their DNA, and taking time to, like, you know, become this serious outfit. But I'll tell you what, Audi looking good. Best of the rest, certainly as a team. Again, Lindblad to one side in that FP1 session. Very good, very promising. What else we got? Leclerc set the pace, of course, yes. We look at the front, so, well, to anyone listening, the top 10, Leclerc, Hamilton, Verstappen, Hadjar, Lindblad, Piastri, Russell, Antonelli, Bortoleto, Hulkenberg was the top 10 from FP1. Charles Leclerc put in a lap almost half a second quicker than Lewis. He did put a quick lap in at the end, 33 laps for Charles, 30 for Lewis, 63 for the Ferrari boys in total. More than anybody else, a very, very good start, a very promising start. Could Ferrari dominance bore fans? That is the real question, isn't it? That is the real question. Gabby's going to shine. I hope so too. Mr. Nowboy. And then more Haas. Yeah, Haas, solid running. Ocon P11, Behrman P14. Not too bad at all. And Lawson up there, P13 as well. Obviously, from a negative point of view, Aston Martin capturing all of the headlines here. But I tell you what, yeah, Red Bull, Ferrari, they're definitely more in this than most of us, myself included, would have expected going into this season. You know, Mercedes whitewash doesn't look like, at least based off of FP1, it's going to be a thing. So let's look at FP2. Oscar Piastri, this time, leads the line, a 1:19.729, ahead of both Mercedes. So if Mercedes power cars did have some kind of engine ERS limitation in FP1, they came alive in FP2. You can't write them off at all. Pharaoh, Verstappen was terrible in FP2. Max did have a few little furores, didn't he, in FP2. But before we get into that, we have to talk Aston Martin again, unfortunately. As you can see, Lance Stroll did manage 13 laps, Fernando Alonso 17. So they actually got 30 laps on the board, did Aston, in FP2. Bravo. But Newey, before the FP2 session started, confirmed that they were down to their last two batteries already, and they're the ones that are on the cars. So if they have any issue with the batteries for the rest of the weekend, that battery will not make it, and therefore one of those cars won't make it. Maybe both of them won't even make the race, which would be deeply. They need to. I need to see us. I just can't. Like on Sunday, they're going to be going round Fernando or Lance, probably one or the other, hopefully both, and then at some point the team's going to have to be like, box to retire the car. And they're not going to elaborate, but we're all going to know why this has happened. It's just sad. It's genuinely sad. But anyway, FP2 started, and before we even got running, George and Arvid had a little love tap down the pit lane, where George tried to sneak in ahead of the rookie. So had to get a new front wing. Cost him about, these wings are probably more expensive nowadays, right? Because of the active aero on the front. So an expensive little ding between the two of them. But yeah, we did see Fernando Alonso on track because, of course, we didn't see him at all in FP1, so that was glorious. And Max had a similar looking issue, perhaps, to what Arvid had at the start of FP1 in FP2, conking out in the pit lane, so had to be recovered. And then we saw a really pretty scary one. Looking at Colapinto's onboard, he lacked drive coming out of the final corner, going down the straight, seemed to be stuck in neutral, couldn't get it into gear. And Lewis Hamilton, coming like the clappers, down the straight. Those closing speeds, especially with these cars now where they're so quick in a straight line, Jesus Christ, that was scary. If you watch Lewis's onboard, that was a proper sketchy one. Proper sketchy. Not what you want to see. Colapinto will be investigated, but it does look like it was a car issue. Turn 3 caught out a lot of drivers once again. It's going to be keeping it on the track. Anthony Davidson said this on the broadcast, and I really do agree. Like, you know, keeping it consistent, keeping it on the track, not making mistakes when it feels like there's a bigger margin for error, where these cars draw you in and you can dance on the edge of adhesion. But it does mean we might see more mistakes, more errors, and that is kind of what we want. We want the drivers who make mistakes to be punished and those who don't to be rewarded. So that's a good thing. Cadillac, Checo, you can see only 2 laps on the board, and neither of them were anyway representative. He missed pretty much the entire session with a sensor issue. They did eventually get the car out, and then he had to basically immediately park it on the track because it broke again. So disappointing. However, broadly speaking, I think Cadillac, this is the first time they're running 2 cars, remember? So of course they only had to bring 1 to the shakedown and the test. All in all, I think Cadillac can be relatively satisfied. I mean, again, Aston have probably elevated the perception of Cadillac by being so washed. So that certainly helps. I'm sure Dan Tauris and Mario Andretti can give Adrian Newey a pat on the back for that one. We got a little look at something interesting on the Ferrari. Charles Leclerc had a virtual mirror. We know about this because it wasn't working. He was complaining about it not working, which appears to be another innovation from Ferrari, which is good to see. To help with traffic management. We know cars struggle with, managing traffic, managing their tyre temps and getting everything prepared and ready prior to a push lap. Now, obviously these new cars, lighter, smaller tyres as well, getting them up to temperature is a new challenge and possibly more difficult. So that might pay dividends. They're pushing the boat out, our Ferrari. They are pushing the boat out, which is good to see. We didn't see the reverse flip. Well, at least I didn't notice the reverse flipping active aero on the rear wing, which is a shame. Doesn't seem to have made the car, unless I'm being stupid and completely missed it. Remains to be seen. All the teams are washed. All the teams are washed. Perhaps. The thing is, I hear what you're saying, Jordan. It's not mistakes for the wrong. It's mistakes for the wrong reasons. But this is the first couple of practice sessions around a track that's very different to Barcelona and Bahrain. So I'm cautious to reserve being too crazy critical where these rules are so different and the way you have to drive these cars is so different. I don't just because the drivers are struggling somewhat, some more than others. I'm not going to sit here and be like, yep, they're washed rules. That's it, done, finished. Like, I want to give the drivers an opportunity to at least develop a degree of consistency before being too hypercritical. Don't you worry? Like, trust me, if I'm not enjoying what I'm seeing, I will call it out. And so far, I've not been massively offended. I'll be honest. I've really not. And again, so many of these issues. How much of it is actually going to come across in the broadcast? How much of it is going to... Look, I can deal with drivers complaining. Like, all right, I'm sorry these cars aren't exactly to your liking. If the racing's good, which we don't know yet because we've not seen any wheel-to-wheel action. If the racing's good, then that's what I care about first and foremost as a fan, right? Is it competitive? Is it good wheel-to-wheel? That remains to be seen. The drivers, I don't like these cars. Oh no, Diddums, bless you. Oh, what a shame. What an unfortunate position you're in. Sorry, I don't really care if the drivers don't love driving the cars. Like, sorry, it's relative, right? You're still an F1 driver, flying around the world, living the absolute dream. So, sorry if I don't have a huge amount of J-Pro, that's a good point. It is hard because they're driving upside down. That is true. I hadn't considered that. We need to take that into account when analysing these sessions as well. These were all done. And, they always say that F1 cars can drive upside down in a wind tunnel, but Australia is obviously the opportunity to prove and to show that. You know what I mean? Right, what else we got on my little notes from FP2? Yes, of course, Lance had to box at the end. Unfortunately, an issue. Box, we have an issue. Managed 13 laps, again, better than nothing. Also, Science had to miss out on a bunch of running in FP2 as well, with an issue with his car. So both Williams having issues in each session. Science got 30 laps on the board in FP1. That was pretty good. And then, Max had a huge off through that fast left right-hander. Turn 11, 12, isn't it? Did well to keep it out the wall, but chewed that floor up loads. So, yeah, that's it, basically. That's what happened in FP2. Bosh. Lovely jubbly. Happy days. Right, chat. What we saying? We've got a few super chats, a couple of super chats here. Thank you, Ratchet, for the super chat. Appreciate that. Hi, Tom. F1 is back. Been a while since I've been able to make one of these. This season is going to be spicy. Mega looking forward to it. Lovely. Thank you very. Apart from use of the word mega, but I'll let you off for that, Ratchet. Okay. You should know how much that. Dylan, is rain going to be added to the mix this weekend? Let me have a little updated look on the old weather front. Actually, that's a good question. Albert Park, Australia weather. No, yeah, it's looking like it's going to be dry. So it's sunny today. It's yeah. There's like no chance of rain. It's going to be dry, which I am glad about. I said this in my pre-race preview. CHINWAG. Sorry, it is 6:50 in the morning, so forgive me for being a bit like I'm buffering at times. It means we get a more competitive session. No, it doesn't. It means we get a more representative session. That's what I'm trying to say. We actually see the car's relative performance. When you chuck rain in, it's a variable that, that muddies the water a tad. Thank you again, Ratchet. I'm not saying it. I'm just saying Tron. Pierre said on Canal Plus right after that they had a lot of issues without being able to say too much about it, Mr. Nowboy. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, Alpine weren't particularly a bit underwhelming in terms of the final timings anyway. Obviously, you got to take that with a pinch of salt, and if they did have issues, then that would maybe somewhat explain as to why that was the case. Still got decent laps on the board. And Gasly 27, Colapinto 26 in practice 1. And then, what was it in practice 2? It was 16 for Pierre, 26 for Colapinto. So yeah, Gasly, a few more issues for him in FP2. But I still, maybe my belief in a Gasly podium as like a long shot is feeling like a longer shot. Doesn't even work that way, does it? We will see. Are we excited? Look, I'm excited. I'm excited to see that FP3. That's just a bit of a throwaway session. Typically, obviously less so now. From a competitive point of view, you don't get too much knowledge from FP3 because it isn't really a representative time relative to the race. However, of course, quali tomorrow going to be huge. Seeing how these cars, manage their battery overlap. I'm interested to see what the pole lap's going to look like. How much super clipping. That's really going to annoy me saying that all the time. So I might try and park it now for the rest of it. Do I have to discuss super clipping? Forbesy, you think the Ferrari looks really fast? I mean, yeah, I'm seeing a lot of Ferrari love. And again, if it wasn't Ferrari, I would be on board. But it is Ferrari. Lewis was the only driver to be in the top 4 both sessions. I just still very much don't know. And it is way closer. Like the spread at the top. I mean, what in practice 2, 6/10 split in the top 6. It does feel like the Ferrari, the Mercedes, the McLaren, and the Red Bull are all going to be podium contending cars. We will get, and again, these cars aren't static. They're going to evolve over the course of the season. 6 races in, pecking order is going to be different to 12 races in. Going to be different to 18, 24. But it looks like we're starting in a pretty close relative place, which simply lovely. Nah, trust this. Well, to be fair, I didn't predict Charles Leclerc to win the championship this year. So I did that for good reason, okay? You're welcome, Tifosi fans, if he does get it done, because that will clearly be the reason why. Max is going to be a contender for sure here. I mean, he's going to force his way into it if Red Bull can. I think, you know what it is for me? I worry for the Red Bull power unit relative to Mercedes and Ferrari from a reliability point of view. That's my biggest qualm, I think, even now. Because I think actually peak performance-wise, the Red Bull Ford seems to be up there. I mean, we saw Lindblad cook that lap in FP1, and of course Max consistently up there in both sessions. Thank you, Mayan. Either say Ferrari did a superb job or sing Land Down Under duet for us, Tomo. Well, I don't really know the words. The Land Down Under. That one. Is that one in it? Yeah. There you go. That's what you're getting. An ultimatum. I'm not being ultimatumed by chat at 5 to 7 in the morning. I'm sorry, Mayan. I'm sorry. Okay? Oh, dearie me. Right, okay. Anything else? Anything else I've not mentioned? F2, Shadow, yeah, we saw Colton Herter have a bit of an off in F2. Is like, I've not looked at the junior formula schedule at all, to be honest, but I know that Colton Herter had a shunt, and I think Gabriele Mini went quickest, didn't he? I think it was, ahead of Noel Leon, who's a great name because it's Noel Leon, and then Noel is Leon spelt backwards. It's kind of cool. And yeah, I think we're done. I'm going to wrap it there. Chat, thank you all for joining me. Jithu, Sawn, Dane, MZUWL, Pios, Ryan, NK McFrin, J Pro, Gamer George, Henry, Adrian, and the rest of you. Aldi, well done. You are my biggest good surprise. Aston Martin being bad was not a surprise. And who knows what the pecking order is at the front, which is nice to see. Pleasure as always. My name's Tomo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.